about those songs that they still hold up today?
Good question. I think there are a lot of contributing factors there. If we could we got to start somewhere. I would say it's the meaning and the heartfelt sentiment behind the songs is something that people can connect with. Yeah, and whether it's a party song like Double Vision, or a love song like Waiting for a Girl Like You, or a raunchy song like Dirty White Boy. It just covers a lot of bases, so there's going to be something there for everyone. But honestly, so many people connect with all these songs on those different wavelengths. Yeah. So there's really a broad appeal. But there's something special about the songwriting, the chord structures, the melody choices, and of course the lyrics, the message of the song. So often is,
I remember watching an interview.
Yeah, I know that.
Well, I think it was Lou that had mentioned that they wanted songs that had a broad appeal, but also weren't cookie cutter. With the chord changes and things like that too. But,
oh man, did they succeed? I think Nick, with his natural abilities, constructed the perfect rock song that feels like the first time.
Yeah.
And not an easy song to play on guitar, by the way, because of those high chord structures.
Now
there's something really magical about the way you wove those elements together.
Well, you've played in bands with arguably two of the most iconic singers in the history of rock and roll, with Steven Tyler and with Lou Gramm. Stylistically and personally, how would you describe them as someone who's been in those bands and also performed with them?
Mm-hmm. At that level, I think anyone would see a lot of similarities. And one of the things you might not know from the front of the stage that I can witness from being there on the stage, and I saw this with both guys, Steven and Lou both had what you would call tremendous lungs. And, back in those days, a lot of people wore tank tops and so forth. And I remember noticing with both of them when they sang that you could see in their back, their lungs would kind of expand out.
Yeah.
And that was some serious power, man.
Yeah.
These guys were not holding back. So it's been such a great thrill for me over the years to work with such phenomenal talent, world-renowned talent.
Well, you were with Aerosmith with what people could say as like the peak of their massive success. That was like the golden era for them. I couldn't even imagine the whirlwind because, they were the biggest band in the world when you were in the band, Yeah,
that was fun.
What do you remember most about those years? Anything specific or just in general, the feeling of being a part of that energy?
It was really smooth. By the time we hit the stage, I look back and see the videos from Woodstock 2 and those giant festivals in Europe where there was over 100,000 people and Jimmy Page is sitting in. All the great stuff that happened. Soccer stadiums in South America where Jimmy Page again turned up, as they say, and sat in. But if there's just one thing that pops into my mind, it's the funniness and the energy when Steven would come in the room. He's like a barrel of monkeys.
Yeah.
It's non-stop entertainment. He's always on 100 million volts, and he's always joking around and laughing and playing games and tricks and got 10 things going at once. It was purely entertaining.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time doing warm-up exercises. I would play the piano and different chords, and we would do vocal exercises. And I would reharmonize and find all kinds of bizarre chords, and he would be giving thumbs up or thumbs down. And just all that harmonizing and singing on stage with those two-part harmonies.
Yeah.
That's probably the thing I remember the most. It was so fun to just soar like that. And being in two-part harmony with Steve and Tyler, it was a thrill of a lifetime.
Well,
as good as that was.
Yeah. Well, you're a very talented multi-instrumentalist, but with playing the saxophone, that is definitely a trademark image of you and the sax, even though you do play other instruments. What is it about the saxophone that, for you as a performer, really sets it apart from other instruments and just your approach to it?
I like the fact that it's similar to singing. I would imagine that singing is probably, I don't know if anyone ever wrote it, but I'm sure it would be voted the most expressive instrument. Right? Yeah. You've got words, you've got inflection, you've got any pitch at all is complete. Any pitch you want, anytime. So it's got to be the most expressive instrument. And for me, of the instruments that I play, saxophone is probably the second most expressive next to singing. So I love the fact that you can pour your heart and soul into this thing. A lot of times I would imagine words behind the notes, and I would do that as an exercise to make sure that I was playing like you want to speak in sentences.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to run on sentence. So you have to play in little phrases. We call it phrasing. And as I was working on phrasing, I would imagine words behind each note to make sure that I made each one count, and try to play in a melody. Because if you're going, you can't imagine words that fast.
Yeah.
This would hopefully keep me playing lyrically. And the saxophone, you could just really pour your heart and soul into it. You can be as expressive as you want to. And that's probably why it's so special to me, because I can just wail my face off on that.
It's funny that you say that about the lyric side of things with singing, because one of my favorite albums is Love Supreme, and someone had said recently to me, and I looked it up, and it looked like it was kind of true that
I love the Go-Go's.
What, Love Supreme with Coltrane?
I thought you said Love Supreme by the Go-Go's.
Oh, no, I meant Love Supreme by Coltrane.
I'm kidding.
I'm sorry. But, so someone had said,
Love Supreme. Oh yeah, Go-Go's rule.
Well, I was sitting there, they were saying that the album was, the chord changes was actually meant to be syllables to a poem that Coltrane had written. I don't know if you ever want to look into that, but there's a poem that he wrote, and the way that the poem reads compared to the song, it's the exact syllables of every word that's in that poem that he wrote.
Oh man!
But when I'm definitely agreeing with you.
My idea.
Yeah. Well, what I was gonna say too is, you grew up in the golden era of rock and roll, and you're still involved in the golden era of rock and roll. But what do you think about modern rock that's out there? I mean, I want to preface my question by saying that there's always going to be some kid starting a garage band somewhere, but on the mainstream level, you don't see as many rock acts on the charts or even headlining these festivals, unless they're like a name that everyone knows from maybe 20 years ago. But what do you see when you look out? What do you see when you look out there?
I think the landscape is always changing, and things come back around. Depending on the social climate, they say that the arts and music and film reflect the personality of the time. Yeah. And so I think that will spin itself around again, and things will continue to metamorphosize. Yeah, I hope that's a word. But I see, obviously, a lot of the rock has shifted into the country world. Yeah, and that, I think, is a natural collaboration or a corroboration. It's both. It really is. It's both. But I think they were born from the same kind of genesis. I look at American music, and rock is an American kind of art form, and country is an American art form. And if you look at the history of rock, it really did. It came out of like rockabilly and swing and shuffle. All these things kind of fused together. So I love the fact that country is rocking now. You hear so many great guitar solos. In awe.
The lines are blurred. The lines are definitely blurred.
Yeah, the picking that goes on down in Nashville, those players, my jaw is dropping. I love the stuff they do. And I love country rock music, so I'm totally open-minded to that. As far as regular rock, there's still good rock bands around. Vital Sons.
Yep.
They're kicking hard, and I could think of a couple other ones, but there's also this resurgence in that kind of, for lack of a better word, Green Day type of rock. Yeah. I keep hearing The Offspring on the radio, and loving it.
you're on stage and the band's firing on all cylinders, where do you go in your head? What are you thinking and what are you feeling?
That's a cool question. I like to go all kinds of different places because typically you let the music just take you away.
Yeah.
You know, like if you've ever been in the ocean and you're riding a wave, or if you go sailing, you have to let it take you. You can't fight it. And in music, you want it to take you. So I get swept away. And it could be the emotion of the song, or I could start flashing back the times that I've had on stage with this band. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. You can have a really emotional experience up there inside your mind, which is just as the way you put it. It all goes on inside your mind. But, I mean, it has to happen kind of in the back of your mind. We're always focused primarily on delivering the song. And we focus on some really neat stuff, like when we're singing the background vocals, Jeff Pilson and I, we'll focus on trying to place our phrasing behind the beat, so it's lazy, a little bit more bluesy, a little more slippery, and like Motown, because I love that. You know, that's what we live for. So we're like, let's really try and get greasy up there tonight. So I can, and that's a challenge because with your hands, you're playing air time on guitar and so forth. You're rocking with a drummer, and then you get to float with that vocal behind the beat a little bit. So we do focus on some really fun musical stuff, and when I'm playing the sax or something, I have to focus a full tilt on that. So that really takes over, and it's cool. That's like clocking out. I really clock out, and then I sort of wake up after it's over, like what happened. That's really cool. That's like going on subconscious.
Well, and I guess my final question would be, as a person who's performed all around the world and in front of millions of people over the years, what has being a musician taught you about what it means to be a human being?
I think of music as the universal language. People say that love is the universal language, and that's true to a certain extent. Because you could be in love, but what are you going to talk about? So language barrier will catch up with you at some point. Music, on the other hand, you can have a jam session with anyone, anywhere, anytime, especially if they're playing percussion, drums. That's when we do our acoustic shows. The audience sometimes becomes the percussion department, the percussion section, and that can happen in any part of the world. We've played in places like South America where they click their lighters in time with the music. I'm pretty sure it was in Santiago, Chile, and they click their lighters in time with the music. It's so cool. So, being a musician is the ultimate honor for me, to be someone that can travel around and bring people together. That is such a gift, and I'll always be just humble and grateful for that. And as a person, what it's taught me is that we all have the same feelings. There's, when you look at these songs and you think everyone's connecting to these songs because they know what that feels like. So that was when I realized everybody's really the same. There's no one that has never felt sad. There's no one that has never felt lonely. That person doesn't exist except C-3PO. And even he sounds a little upset.